All right. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Inside the Investigation. A really horrific case that we're going to be talking about really took my breath away when I read the details of what happened in the 2021 home invasion and rape in your city back in October. And one thing that stood out to me that made me want to dig into this case initially was the fact that, these were people in their early 20s, and now they're looking, two of them at least, are looking at the rest of their lives locked up. So take me back to when you first heard about this case.
We learned about the case after the police made arrests, one after the other, of these defendants. And it came into our office and got set initially for preliminary hearing. Like you said, the facts were really aggravated. I mean, no sexual assault is good. Every single one of them is a violent crime. But this particular case started out as an armed gunpoint robbery in Virginia Beach of the son of the victim of the sexual assault. And the individuals who perpetrated that robbery out there then abducted the son of the sexual assault victim and brought him back to Norfolk to engage in a home invasion and robbery at the house where that individual's mother lived. And then while one of those three individuals stayed in the car because he knew that the victim and would recognize him, the other two went in and took turns sexually assaulting and raping the mother in front of her son and robbing them there. There really aren't words for the violence and the aggravated nature of a crime like this. Short of short of a homicide or physical torture, it's about as bad as it gets.
Yeah, I mean the details, the quotes, that were rehashed. I cannot imagine what, the mother of the, both victims, but the mother and the son, went through. So you've got three men or two men initially who are in Virginia Beach, and they try to rob two victims outside of their apartment.
Yes, that's right. The uh, the the robbers start out in Virginia Beach and then
Right.
move to Norfolk.
So
And
they abduct the two victims and put them in a car.
Mhm, that's right.
And
The mother is in Norfolk, if memory serves.
right.
She is not there.
Right.
She is at the house in Norfolk, not in Virginia Beach.
Do you think, okay, so and the initial goal of this, right, is just to get money. Um, do you think that obviously when they go to the victim's mom's house to get more money, that victim would have ever imagined that it would have turned into a sexual assault?
It's hard. The accused has a constitutional right not to talk to us. That's our Fifth Amendment right. And it's short of having somebody tell us what they had in mind, it's difficult to know what they had in mind. And even sometimes when people tell the police after the fact why they did what they did, they're going to do what lawyers call minimize,
Mm-hmm.
which is they're going to say, well, we thought we were going to do this one thing and then we were going to do this other. But you know, the factual, the way this played out was strange enough that we'll never know for sure.
Right.
But it seems more as if this was a money thing, a robbery thing, and then it evolved into something else.
Mm-hmm.
So that the plan about what to do and how to do it changed based on what people were doing, what their state of mind was, what their mood was.
Have you ever seen a case like this where it is a robbery and then to go over city lines, put those victims in a car? Normally, when you hear about a robbery, okay, like you're held up at gunpoint or, at knife point, and you take the money and they run, and it's kind of a quick transaction. How often do you hear of it turning into, okay, get in the car. Where can we go from here? Go to your mom. She has, like, that's so extensive. I'm shocked by their boldness.
There are stranger robberies and there are robberies of people one knows. The knife point running away, the bank robbery, the 7-Eleven robbery, those tend to be ones where the accused is desperate and they just pick a place and go to it. home invasion robberies and non-stranger robberies are different.
Okay.
Do the people know each other from work, whether it's legal work or illegal work? Do they know that the person is a neighbor and has money or deals a lot in cash? A lot of them tend to be drug related or gang related. And those two things can sometimes intersect. But whenever and a home invasion is sort of a robbery plus a burglary.
Okay.
And the what we see, for example, in burglaries, if it's somebody throwing a rock through a window, it's again usually a stranger. They're looking for a house that looks unoccupied. But when somebody is kicking the door in a house that is occupied, or getting their way in at gunpoint, like in this case, again, there are people who know each other, and when people know each other, you tend to see the violence escalate because if the perpetrators have decided that they're ready to rob, they are prepared if necessary in their minds. There's no legal excuse for what anybody does in these situations, but they're prepared in their minds to get violent.
Is this where the whole crime of passion thing comes in, even in a case like this? Even because you hear about that when it's, stabbings a lot of times. They say stabbings are typically crimes of passion because you have to be close to that person, and it's kind of involves like more emotions. Would you say that passion at all played a role in any of this case?
I want to distinguish between passion and malice.
Okay.
Crimes of passion are generally ones where what you would be doing would be considered malice, which is a legal term for doing something wrong, knowing that it's wrong and knowing that it's illegal and having a bad heart while you do it. Passion negates the bad heart portion of malice. So, the classic example is the use of deadly force in response to non-deadly force. If one person punches the other in the nose, and then the person who got punched shoots the first person, there's not malice there because there's what the law considers to be a legitimate level of anger that one would experience. It's a disproportionate response, which is why it's not self-defense. The idea of a crime of passion actually goes back to the olden days where it was a man's world and misogyny was the default mode. And if a man came home and found his wife in bed with another man, it wasn't murder to kill the guy or her. It was considered manslaughter because it was considered legitimate passion. So crimes of passion are ones where somebody loses their temper, but there is some idea where there may be a legal excuse for it.
Gotcha.
This is malice.
Okay.
Anger not legitimately provoked is just malice. So, being in hot blood, whether it's under the influence of drugs, whether being mentally ill, whether just being unable to govern yourself, and then deciding, I am going to do this. I am going to rob this person. I'm going to kick in their door. I am going to shoot this person because I am mad at them. I'm going to sexually assault this person because I want it. They're crimes that could be of impulse, ones that weren't necessarily well thought out or well planned, but they are not crimes where there's a legal excuse.
All right.
So that's where the one thing can lead to another.
And clearly in this case, that's what happened. We're going to take a quick break and then we're going to kind of start at when they get to Mother's house. Stay with us. Welcome back to Inside the Investigation. I'm here with Ramin Fatehi, Norfolk Commonwealth's attorney, and I'm Aesia Toliver, and we are digging into a case that happened in 2021 that was a home invasion and rape, and the details are very horrific. And we're at the point now where they've got, the victims, the suspects have the victims in the car, and they go to one of the victims' mother's home. It's my understanding that when they knock on her door, they have the victims do that. So she sees her son and isn't expecting, opening the door for a stranger. It was kind of a manipulation tactic to get in initially, correct?
Yes. The law calls that a constructive breaking and entering, where even if you trick the person, it's still breaking and entering. And it's not unusual to see that. Or the knock on the door will say, hey, it's Domino's, or hey, this is your cousin or the neighbor or something like that. But yeah, we see that. That's not uncommon.
So they get in and they rob the mother. Am I using the correct term there?
Yes.
Rob the mother, and she hands over $800 in cash, saying, This is from my paycheck. This is all I have right now.
That's right.
And that is when things take a really eerie turn. And we start to see a side of the suspects that it's more egregious. So at that point, and I know it's kind of hard to even kind of talk about, but the facts of the case are that the son had to watch his mother be sexually assaulted and raped in a very vulgar way. Can you talk about how that escalated?
We don't know why, we just know what. And you're right. The robbers came in and robbed the mother of what turned out to be some of her money. And then they ordered her and her son into a back bedroom. They started.
They tied them up, correct?
That's right. They started ransacking the place looking for more money, which they found. But for whatever reason, they decided that they were going to sexually assault the mother also in front of her son, repeatedly, and taunt the son as he had to watch his mother being raped. The it's impossible to get at why somebody would think that this was something that they ought to do. It's really, really harmful. It's aggressive. I'm trying to be lawyerly in the language I use,
Yeah.
but it's just it's malice at heart. It's absolutely the heart of malice to go and to invade the body of another person and then do it in front of their son, where the mother son bond is about the closest bond that any two people can have, and the desire to protect one's mother, to protect one's son, is as strong of an instinct as any human being has.
Mm-hmm.
And an assault on that instinct is, it takes a lot of work for victims to go through that, and then to to work on the process of saying this is something that happened to me, and it's not something that defines me.
The healing journey is very long, I can only imagine.
Yes,
if you ever fully recover from something like that.
Well, how do you unsee those things? How do you unhear those things? How do you unexperience them?
Mm-hmm.
How do you as a mother and a son, I have confidence that these victims will get through this, that they will not allow what these men did to them to define their lives. That is how defendants win.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a piece of advice we always give to victims and to survivors. Do not let them win by taking away any joy that you can have in life down the road. The best revenge is to refuse to let them move into your head. But that's easy for us to say when we haven't gone through these sorts of things.
And I wanted to pull up because I thought the wording, just to give people an idea of how, and to refresh. So we have a DeAndre Ward, one of the suspects, and
Yes.
Ward is the one who initially sexually assaults the mother first.
Yes.
Then, he looks to the son and says, "Look what I'm doing to your mom," while he forces her to perform oral sex on him. Just to give people an idea of just how severe this was. And then, as if that's not bad enough, there's a second assault and a second situation where Ward rapes her a second time. So you've got that situation where Ward rapes her the first time, and then Wright comes in, the other suspect, and forces the mother to perform oral sex on him, and then Ward then rapes mom a second time. So for you, when you're looking at the logistics of this case, does the second assault spark anything in you to decide how severe you will be punishing them in court?
It definitely moves the needle for my prosecutors and me about what we consider what's called the value of the case to be. And we were very careful in this case for both Ward and Wright that we weren't the ones who were going to pick the sentence.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I believe in as Commonwealth's attorney is recognizing that there are separate branches of government, and that A lot of old school prosecutors just think they know best, and the judges don't know what they're talking about, and legislators don't know what they're talking about, and frankly, half the time victims don't know what they're talking about if they want any kind of mercy.
Mm-hmm.
And cases like this, there are no easy answers. And I wanted, a case like this, the guilty pleas go through me.
Mm-hmm.
I need to approve them personally. And I knew in these cases that I wanted to leave the judge with the ability to be a judge and to look at it neutrally and to make a decision having considered everything rather than just picking a number and making that offer to the accused.
So when someone pleads guilty, it doesn't always come with, if you plead guilty, you'll get, this amount of time. It's just, if you plead guilty, we could maybe drop a couple of charges or rearrange things, but ultimately you could still face the maximum sentence for those crimes.
That's right.
Yeah.
There's what's known as sentence bargaining, which is you'll plead guilty to whatever, and this is the amount of time you're going to get. And then there's what's known as charge bargaining, which is you're charged with 5 counts of this. You agree to plead guilty to 3 counts of this, for example. And then there's something in between, which we see, not just in Norfolk, all over Virginia, all over the United States, where more than 9 out of 10 cases are resolved by guilty plea. I think it's something like 95% of cases in American courts are resolved by guilty plea and plea agreements, where there can be an agreement that says, we'll engage in some charge bargaining, but we will also put a limit on your sentence. We could say the statutory limit, for example, is life, but we agree, based on your guilty plea, that the sentence will be no more than X number of years. And there are all kinds of reasons why plea agreements happen.
Let's get into that here in just a minute. We're going to take another quick break, and we'll be right back on this case of Inside the Investigation. All right, welcome back to Inside the Investigation here with Commonwealth's attorney for Norfolk, Ramin Fatehi, and we're digging into a really terrible situation where it was a home invasion and rape. So we're now at this place where the sexual assaults have occurred, and then mother, one of the victims, is put into a dog cage in the bedroom. I just get chills even thinking about that. I mean, treating her like a dog, raping her like she is nothing. For you, when you're working with the victims in these cases, how do you handle their pain, or how do you deal with getting the information out that you need when it's so traumatic?
Part of it is empathy, part of it is listening, part of it is patience. One of the first things that we tell victims, especially victims of sexual assault, is it is really natural to feel awful. That is part of the process. But part of the healing process is to tell yourself that you did not do anything wrong, that it is not your fault, that you didn't ask for this to happen to you. That if you're saying, well, I could have done this or I could have done that, there is no excuse for somebody to sexually assault another person. No excuse to rape anybody at gunpoint. There's never a reason. And to say, we want to try and hold accountable to people who have hurt you, it can be hard, but we also need your help to make sure that this person never does this to anybody else. And then to say, it's natural to feel anger, it's natural to feel confusion, it's natural to feel shame. But it is not your fault.
Right.
And the treatment of the sexual assault victim in this case is really awful, even in the context of forcible rapes. But it has the hallmarks of a lot of forcible rapes. These are situations where a stranger rapes another stranger, and usually at knife point, at gunpoint, going into their houses. It's not about sexual arousal. It is about power. There is something. There's a screw loose with the person committing the rape, and they are, obviously a certain degree of sexual arousal is necessary to commit a rape, but it's about the exertion of power over another person. So the taunting, the objectification, all of that plays into the display of dominance and the desire to dominate that we see from the moment that this series of crimes starts to take place in Virginia Beach and moves to Norfolk. Holding somebody up at gunpoint is a dominance move. It's a power move. It's as is a rape, as is the taunting. And
would you say this is one of, because all rape is horrible, absolutely horrible. But would you say the circumstances around this one make it one of the worst rape cases that you've ever heard of, or does it get worse?
Short of physical torture, it's about as bad as it gets. The only things that would make it worse were if this happened over the course of an extended period of time, if the victim were a minor, or if it involved, broken bones, burns, cuts, physical wounds. We don't see those cases very often, but they exist.
Right.
So there's a line from Shakespeare, from King Lear, that says it's not the worst if we can say it's the worst. And there's always something there. The depravity of the human mind is almost as boundless as its creativity. So there are cases that are worse in theory, but this is bad. And a comparison of miseries isn't necessary. It's really bad.
And, for me, so it's like, okay, you've got Ward, who is kind of leading the charge on all of this, it seems like. But then the other suspect, Wright, kind of falls right in line. Do you feel like, is that something you also see, another suspect more likely to do something if they see another suspect commit a crime first? Like, do you think that Wright would have sexually assaulted Mom if Ward never did initially?
We'll never know.
Yeah.
We don't know. What we do know is that a herd mentality can develop. Like if we're all in a group, there are positive aspects of it. If we're all in a stadium and somebody starts doing the wave, we start going. So and then the dark side of it is what we see in this case, which is if you're part of the group, you don't want to look like you're punking out.
Yeah.
You don't want to look as if you're somehow have less, in its own twisted way, less strength of will than the people around you. And followers will follow into dark places. We don't know what would have happened if any of these three people had been a different person, or if it had been only two people or one person. There's no way to know. All we know is what they did do.
And then for the third suspect, Mitchell, is it my understanding that he was on the phone? He knew what was happening inside the home at that time? Or is he out in the car thinking they're just trying to get money? How much was he aware of?
He was in pretty constant communication with the two people at home, or the two people inside the home. Whether they gave him an exact play-by-play or just gave him the gist of it, he knew that wrong was happening in that house. Well, the big difference between him and the two men who went in there, committed these rapes, committed these robberies inside the house, is that Mr. Mitchell did not go in. So he did not rape anybody. He did not hold anybody up at gunpoint. He was still equally responsible for those crimes because he was part of a group who was contemplating committing these crimes, and even if they hadn't planned out every little bit of it, if it's natural and probable, to use the legalese, that one thing is going to lead to another, then the guy in the car can be tried and convicted for those crimes. What is going to be different is the degree of punishment.
Gotcha.
Because if you're the getaway driver in a bank robbery, and your fellow bank robber shoots and kills somebody, you're not the one who decided to pull the trigger. You're still responsible for that shooting and that homicide, but you're not, in terms of guilt or innocence, but you're not as responsible in terms of sentence.
Still to come inside the investigation.
When he was a child, he had diagnosed mental illness. Some of it medicated, some of it not. He had dropped out of school. He had no stable housing. He was going from house to house at the age of 18. So So he had both mental illness, he had childhood trauma, he had financial desperation and instability. So he and his co-defendants were members of a local gang. Gangs often provide structure that is missing in somebody's home
Give you
life.
a family if you don't have one in a
Right,
way.
the twisted dark side of a
Right.
family.